Hey everyone, today's video is going to be an 80% start to a 10% end for state of charge. So the thought there was like, on a road trip, you're probably going to charge up to 75 or 80%, and then you're probably going to drive to the next charger and try to arrive around, 5 to 15%, somewhere in there. So I just chose 10% as a nice round number. So this is really meant to simulate like how far can you go, what sort of efficiency will you be looking at um, on that 70% of the battery. So that's like the road trip range essentially. So I'm sitting here finishing up charging to 80, and then I'll pull off and get the drive started. And I'll speed up most of the drive, but I will pop in for some commentary, especially later in the video. As we get lower in the pack, we do notice that strange behavior again around the aggressive cooling. So I do talk about that a bit while I was driving. So yeah, enjoy. Just checking in at 20% state of charge. We are on the final little stretch here. I'm looking at the road. Okay. We're at an estimated 5% arrival back to our destination, which would be great. We'll see if the bottom pack estimates hold out. I have noticed our battery temps are creeping up a little bit. And I know last time it had like I'll call it an overreaction and used a lot of energy to bring that down. So we'll see what happens this time. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll try to switch between these screens to show the current climate usage and then the battery temps. So we'll see. I'm actually going to chat about this. So I can already see the climate was pretty even with the other. I guess this is the systems, energy systems. So we've already spiked up about 200 watts since I just last checked in, and our battery temps have dropped to 105. So let's just keep swapping between these and monitor. Um, just really curious if this is like hard-coded behavior once it reaches sub 20% or maybe a certain temperature when you're in the lower battery range. Let's just check in with our, yeah, we have lost a percentage on our arrival, and I'm going to drop my speed 1 or 2 miles an hour here just to make sure I don't get in a bad situation, but I think we're fine. And yeah, we have dropped down to 104 from 106 peak, and our climate usage is definitely outpacing the system's usage now. I'm still on 72 auto low. I started out with single fan, but then it really wasn't keeping up with it as it got warmer today. So I just decided to go auto low again. And it looks like we have made Gary unhappy. We are using higher than expected climate. So my current theory based on like two of these situations is that there is essentially like, I won't call it simplistic because I'm sure there's a good reason for it. There's logic that once the battery reaches a fairly low state of charge, maybe sub 20%, and a certain temperature around 105 to 106, it seems like, the cooling system gets very aggressive. And as you can see, we're now 500 watts consumed above the systems usage, and we were under it, I believe, prior to like 5 or 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to get around this truck. So I think, and I will be excited to compare this behavior to the post update. So the next update has been noted to have a lot of climate-based changes, and there wasn't anything specifically calling out the battery thermal management, but I could certainly see that, if they're making other climate changes, maybe they tweak this too. We'll find out. But for now, I think this does explain a lot of the. I've seen some anecdotes from other people that once you get under like 25 or 20%, it seems like the charge just drops off. And I don't think that it's just bad BMS. I think that the car actively uses more energy during this time because of the climate consumption, which, it's certainly not a great time to use that much energy, especially when you could potentially, up until this point, you could smooth this cooling out a little bit. Like it allowed the battery to creep up to the 106, like why not just hold it at like 102 or 103 and just kind of spread that further out over the drive. Maybe spread your efficiency out a bit more. Now, maybe they did this for some reason, battery longevity. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but I do think as just a user experience thing for an EV, having the last 20% fall off significantly faster than the previous 20% can make for some very unpredictable situations. So, and I'm going to dial my speed back a little bit more because I really don't want to chance it, because we really are dumping a ton of cooling in the battery. And yeah, it happened again. So we're at 101 now. So we've dropped like 5 degrees in the last 10 minutes. And I'll be interested to see the Rivian Roamer graph again, because this behavior is pretty interesting, to me at least. Maybe it's not interesting to people that know what they're talking about. But so I'm looking at 4% arrival now, and I'm at 15% state of charge currently. I'm not super confident in this right now, to be honest. That's why I'm slowing down a little bit. I feel like we are losing battery faster than what this is indicating to me, and I could easily just turn around earlier. I think I'll turn around here. I am looking at the road, thank you. I'm looking, okay. So we're gonna turn around here, and that way I just have certainty that I'm gonna get to my charger, and I can speed back up a little bit, because I just don't want to. I think we've proven out the low state of charge consumption theory around climate. I mean, look at this, a whole kilowatt hour now, almost above the systems usage, which the systems usage is very steady throughout this drive. The climate usage is not steady, and we've now dropped 6 degrees from the peak. So I'm at least confident in saying that this is a behavior that you can reproduce. So I'll be interested to see if that changes for sure. I'm going to make sure I don't miss my exit here. I'm even going to turn my cabin climate up 1 degree, because I just don't need any additional consumption if I can help it, but not that 1 degree is going to make or break anything, since it's just clearly dumping this in the battery. 99. I mean, this is what's a little confusing to me, and this could certainly be bottom of pack protection coating or whatever. But if you're happy to have the battery sitting at 104 for a large majority of the commute or drive, why now is it important to get it down in the 90s, right? And with such aggression? That's kind of my question. And we're going to exit here just to ensure that we do not run out of battery, because I don't really want to. I'll do 75, 76, or sorry, 77 indicated, 75 GPS will be my cruising speed. And I've really been cruising at this point probably around 78 to 79, with the exception of when I ran into traffic, which I have run into a decent amount of traffic. And I think a lot of the efficiency that we've had on this drive has been really nice, because other cars have been pushing the air out of the way for us. So we've done well up to this point, but now we're 1.1 kilowatt hours additional climate use over the system use. So we'll see if that continues. I mean, we have dropped the battery to 97 degrees as well, so it's even still aggressively cooling this thing, and I'm not sure at what point that will taper. But and our last 15-minute efficiency has really suffered as a result of that. It's 2.36 if you can't see it for the last 15, and really haven't been driving any different. There's maybe been some slight elevation gain, but not. Yeah, it looks like we have let the battery creep up 1 degree, so it's no longer doing the aggressive cooling. So if we want to say that this little cooling maneuver is finished, it added a kilowatt hour of consumption over about 10 minutes. So that certainly can contribute to the feeling of, uh, your estimated arrival running out or changing when you get sub 20%. So for me, I think I'm going to kind of factor in like, okay, I might lose 1 or 2% to this cooling until they either change or modify that behavior if they're going to. Just to kind of plan for that. And I have reached 10% state of charge, by the way, and we are pretty close to our destination, so no concerns there. And then here we're going to be looking at the Rivian roamer data. You can see that it captured 178.3 miles for the drive. The average speed was 64.6, but you note that there was a max speed of 79 in there. For the most part, I drove between 75 and 79. I did encounter some traffic at times, and of course, the sitting still does drag the average down a bit. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the efficiency compared to my range test. The efficiency on that was significantly lower. And my main way of explaining that is I was actually driving around with other vehicles. So a lot of times there was a car in front of me that was pushing the wind out of the way. Whereas the range test video, I drove at like 3 a.m. or something, and I was almost always the only car on the road. So I was having to carve my own way through the air. So this car is very aero sensitive, as we all knew, but this sort of confirms it for me at least. If you can be behind other cars, you will have significantly better outcomes on your efficiency. And then also the overall elevation was just pretty much a wash, but there in my area is a lot of up and down. So there was 2,300 feet up and 2,400 feet down, basically. So not insignificant at all. Yeah, and then I do mouse through this, showing the battery warming and cooling situation and the efficiency drop that accompanies that. Hopefully that's obvious in the graph, but yeah, pretty cool data from Rivian Roamer.